Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. I'm your host, Bernadette, and joining me today is Amy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. I'm doing good. I'm freezing in Canada, but other than that, fantastic.
It's gotten cold here too, so you're not alone. Not as cold as Canada, I'm sure, though. Yeah.
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 So where about are you, Amy, and what is your story and what do you do?
Sure. So I'm located in Hoboken, New Jersey, and I am first and foremost a mom to an 11-year-old who is my love, the apple of my eye, but also the president and founder of a financial services wealth management firm. And I founded my firm about 6 years ago, spent 25 plus years. I know that's hard to believe because I look 25, but started it many years ago after a long time in corporate, realizing very quickly, being in the corporate system, that I had no control over my life and I was building a business for somebody else.
Mm.
So I decided to build a business for myself. And I've been able to do that over the last 6 plus years. It's been a great journey, amazing, very rewarding journey. And I feel very fortunate to be in the business that I'm in because the business that I'm in is really more about relationships than it is about dollars and cents. But the concept of wealth management and financial planning, which is what I do, is helping people work toward a specific goal. And that goal could be retirement, it could be a second home, it could be college for children, it could be risk mitigation. So for small business owners, it could be building infrastructure financially. So there's a lot of different things that I help people with. And I started doing this, I got into finance many, many years ago because I'm good at numbers. But I also really love building relationships. So my starting my business was my opportunity to kind of bring those two things together, the skill set, but also something that I loved, and build a book of clients who I really consider my friends. I'm very, very fortunate that all the people that I work with just value my opinion, value my time, appreciate the resources that I bring to the table. And yeah, that's kind of what I do. And I'm located, actually, you had asked that too. I'm located in Hoboken, New Jersey, which is kind of a stone's throw from New York City. So
Mhm.
there's a ferry out the back door of my building that takes about 8 minutes to get into Manhattan. Hoboken
Mhm.
is commonly known for being the home of Frank Sinatra,
Oh.
the birthplace of baseball, and also the home of Buddy from Carlo's Bakery. So that's kind of the fun facts of Hoboken, if you will.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, what would you say to people who want to get into the work that you're doing?
That want to become a financial planner or people that want
Yeah.
to start
Yeah.
investing.
Yeah. Yeah. Financial planner.
Whew. Well, you have to have a brain for the numbers for sure. And you have to have a passion for helping people. Because I will say that in this business, as in many others, if the client isn't the focus, then it will become very clear to the client and it will become a transaction and not a long-term relationship.
Mhm.
And the benefit of having a long-term relationship with a client is because the better you know the client, the better the communication is, the better result you'll perform for them. Because when you understand what they're looking for, you can deliver on those needs. So I would say really working on your ability to understand people, their needs, and then of course a really strong understanding on the industry and how the planning piece of it works. And I guess like a first step in that process could be there's an exam that you can take that's kind of like an introductory exam.
Mhm.
And that one is securities, kind of a like I call that SSSIE exam. It's kind of an entry level exam. It gives you like a basic understanding of how this side of the business works. And
Mhm.
then as you further go through that process, you would have to be sponsored by a broker-dealer or an investment firm
Mhm.
to get the more advanced licenses, which I have my Series 7, 65, 63, 66. I'm a CRPC, which is a Chartered Retirement Plan Counselor, and I'm also a CDFA, which is a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. So many letters. I'm also licensed in life and health insurance, yes, life and health insurance, and I am life and accident insurance. So I can do long-term care and I can do disability for clients who need that, small business owners. And I am also in the process of authoring a chapter in a collaborative book on financial trendsetters. So I think that's like another piece of it, right? Like you ask, how do you get into this business? When you have a genuine curiosity about these things, you put yourself in a position where you become kind of a subject matter expert. And by doing that, people want to hear more from you. And that was why I was chosen and invited to collaborate on this book.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So when do people go see you? Because I'm not too familiar with everything you do. It's a different
Yeah,
language, if I may put it that way.
it is. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. I try to boil it down into very understandable terms, but some people have a harder time grasping it than others. And one of the things that actually I hoped you would ask that question actually.
Mhm.
I mean, 30 plus years in the industry now, I have a lot of experience. And one of the things that I've learned is that there's an unintended bias on the behalf of women. And
Mm,
so I have a very high level of passion of working with women, whether it's female business owners, whether it's families where the woman is involved in the financial decisions, whether it's women who have gone through the transition of either divorce or widowhood.
mhm,
And one of the things that seems to resonate quite a bit is we were never raised by the guidance counselor saying you should go into finance.
mm,
Right? When I was younger, my guidance counselor told me I should be a teacher or I should be a hairdresser or a court stenographer or things that were considered more female-like roles. In fact, it is still pervasive today because of independent wealth management firms that are owned by women. Women only represent 18% of
wow.
those independent financial firms, right? So the other 82% are male-owned. And a
Mm,
large chunk of that 18% are women who either inherited the book of business from a parent, a relative, so forth and so on, right? So to kind of go back to the question that you had asked me, when do people seek out my help? Many times people will start saving on their own,
mhm,
develop a genuine curiosity, say they're going to do it themselves. And when the money amasses to a point where they're like, this is probably a little bit more than I can handle on my own. Maybe I need a little advice. That's typically when they'll reach out to me. They'll reach out to me when they have children. Um, They'll reach out to me when I have a number of clients who have restricted stock units or stock warrants that they've been given by their company, and they don't know how to exercise them, the best way to exercise them, how to use them as part of their investment strategy, right? So I'll get calls for that. And then again, I'll get calls for people who are going through a transition, whether that transition is from working to retirement, from being married to divorced, from being, married to being a widow. So those are all things that are kind of like the impetus. But the bottom line is, to answer your question, is it's typically a life change of some sort, right? So that life change could manifest in a lot of different ways. But those life changes are things that people end up, needing a little bit more advice than they had in the past, and realizing that they are not equipped to make those decisions in a way that would best benefit them.
mhm. Thank you so much for sharing. Why is it important for people who are looking into retiring to see you?
Oh, okay. So I think as a society, we do a really good job at encouraging people to save, 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 save.
Yeah.
And a couple of things have happened over the last couple of years. Longevity has grown. So the average life expectancy used to be 78. I think now it's like 70, 72. I think now it's 78, 79, depending on male or female, what year you were born, and all this other stuff, right? So
Mhm.
people are living longer. There's more stress on the systems that would pay them. So in the past, a lot of companies offered what's known as a pension. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but
I,
it's a promise.
yeah.
You're familiar with that?
Yeah, I've heard pension here.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Different language. I'm
So,
more of a creative person. I
oh,
love
sure.
colors and arts, but I'm excited to learn more. Tell me more.
Yeah, yeah. So your hair definitely expresses that.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I love it.
Thank you.
But so yeah, so a pension is a promise on behalf of a company to pay the person, usually an employee, a stated amount of money over a certain period of time.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, with the changes in corporate structures, those are going away.
Mm,
So it used to be 50% of people that would look for help with retirement planning had a pension, which was that guaranteed income until they decede, until they leave this planet. Um, but now it's like 8%.
ooh,
So all that income that people used to be getting, it's not part of their planning process anymore. They have to kind of create that opportunity on their own.
mhm,
So people need that help figuring out, okay, what's the most tax efficient way to take income out of all this money that I've saved? What's the most efficient way from an investment standpoint to take money out of all the things that I've saved? And so going through that process with somebody who has that specific training and understands that process, allows them the ability to really focus on what best fits what they need. Because you might have somebody who has amassed great wealth, but their financial needs are minimal. And then you might have somebody who hasn't amassed a ton of money, but has very wild spending habits. And so kind of figuring out the roadmap for success for each of them
Mhm.
is a very custom and individual process. But
Yeah.
that process is necessary.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love that you mentioned spending habits because I think all of us have at some point in our lives got get trapped into a loop of spending. We don't understand, well, I'm still going through it, not understanding how to budget properly because when we're
Yes.
young, everything's going well, we're not thinking of retirement. I know I'm not.
No, of course
Right?
not.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say it's important to start saving as soon as someone starts to make any type of income?
Yes, I would say that's absolutely true. You should start saving as soon as possible. I would also say that, do you have any children?
Yeah, I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
you do. Yeah. Do they ever work on your podcast?
They've been on a few lives that I've done. They're very
Okay.
interested and want to do it, want to be there.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
if you had a child that worked for you and they earned income, you
Mhm.
could start a retirement plan for them.
Oh,
hmm At least in the US. I don't, let me
yeah.
preface this by saying I don't know Canadian law, but specifically within the US, if it has a child, so for example, I have a child who does some filing for me, has been part of some of my marketing efforts,
Mhm.
and so I can pay her a small salary, and because she's had that salary, I can contribute that amount of money into a retirement plan for her, which will grow over the next 30, 40, 50 years until she ends up retiring. So I think that story of compounded growth, the
Mhm.
ability to start small now, but watch all those gains over the years as it becomes a lot more meaningful, is a really important part of the process.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Do you help people with wills?
I don't, but one of the first questions that I will ask someone is if they have a will, because I believe it's a very important part of the process,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially in today's day and age. There's been some landmark cases that have taken place where an individual had a will, but it wasn't updated with children,
Ooh.
and then they have children, and
Mhm.
then something happens to the first parent, and then woefully something happens to the second parent in a shorter period of time, and then all of a sudden everybody's scrambling trying to figure out who's going to care for the children. And
Yeah.
I often refer to a will as the most genuine love note that you can write to a person once you're gone,
Mm.
because it's your intention.
Yeah.
This is not about the specifics, because people will typically figure out the specifics of who gets what and what goes where. It's really more about what you'd like to see happen as
Mhm.
opposed to what will happen on its own, right? So that could be your assets, it could be your children, it could be your pet. There are some people with very specific instructions on how to take care of their pet should they predecease them, right? So I don't directly work with wills, but as part of the financial planning process, and
Mhm.
actually, maybe we could take a minute to talk about that because I think that could be helpful. Part of the financial planning process, I like to make sure there's a will in place
Mhm.
so that they don't have to think about those things, that kind of those unknowns are taken care of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fear of the unknown. For sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's probably 90% what I do, by the way. 90% of what I do is I look for the risks that exist within the space of finances, right?
Mhm.
And I say, okay, how can we make sure that that's not an issue? How can we manage and make sure that's not an issue? How can we work a plan so that those things that might be a really big concern for the client, we can mitigate that or at least try to manage as much of the risk as possible.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it just reminds me, emergencies, they can happen at any time, anywhere,
Yeah.
any place, especially for people who are traveling aboard and they just don't have anything in place. They just hope nothing urgent will
Yeah.
happen to them. Have you
Mhm.
dealt with those type of scenarios in any way?
I did deal with a scenario where there was a parent who sent their child off to college.
Mhm.
And the college age child did not have what's known as a power of attorney in place,
Ooh.
healthcare proxy in place. And the child ended up having an accident, was hospitalized, and the parent wasn't allowed to get any information on their child until they flew to another state to go to the hospital.
Oh,
Because once the child reaches the age of majority, their information becomes private. The parent's no longer the default person. So I did have that happen. I did have somebody else who had a health issue while traveling on vacation. They were able to actually take it so random, but take advantage of an offer from a credit card that they had to get a helicopter to bring them back to the States. That was a crazy situation. So like these things do happen. They don't happen often, which is why just planning for it, just in case, just to your point, it's just making sure that, it's kind of one thing that you don't have to
Yeah.
wrap your brain around. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. How about any type of home damage or car accidents? How do you help clients with those two?
Sure. So I would say, like, first and foremost, I encourage clients, depending on their level of liability and their comfort, to
Mm.
establish what's known as an emergency plan. So everybody should have a pot of money set aside, whether it's 3 months or
Laugh
six
because you
months,
said a pile of money.
just a
Yeah.
little pot, a little pile, whatever you want to call it. Um,
Yeah.
but it's something that gives them the opportunity to have the peace of mind that if something like that were to happen,
Mm.
right? Like,
Yeah.
let's say I live in an area of the world that was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Sandy.
Mm.
And so a lot of the people who had insurance claims or were waiting for FEMA money, they had nothing to get them through the first 3 to 6 months until all that paperwork was filed. The adjuster came out, the appraiser saw this. There's a number of things that happen to have to happen, whether it's a car accident, a house fire, all those things, a flood, right? So, and again, like I actually did have this happen. I had a client who became disabled. And that client didn't have there's like a time frames before certain policies will kick in.
Yeah.
And so you have to cover the bridge for that. And when you're somebody who has, a $500 a month rent, that's one thing. But if you have a $6,000 a month mortgage, I mean, you should have something put aside, right? Just in case.
Mm.
So, and it's all relative, by the way. The person with a $500 a month rent might not have 30,000 in savings to cover them, right?
Mm.
So, whatever your situation is, you should have something relative to your monthly earnings put aside, whether it be 3, 6 months, 9 months, depending on, how conservative or laid back you are on that policy. But it's important to have that money set aside. Secondarily, there are creative ways that you can use the assets that you have to work through certain situations, right? So
Mm.
if somebody needed to get a loan against their home or a loan against their property or even an investment account, those are things that people can do short term to kind of bridge those types of situations.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. How
I
about,
also think, I actually want to say one more
yeah,
thing.
go
I
ahead.
think it's really important for people to talk to a property and casualty, and this is a US thing, so I'm sorry if this is not a thing by you, but there's a property and casualty insurance agent because what that person does is they really understand all of the nuances for all the policies.
Hmm.
So, for example, during Sandy, there were some people that had flood insurance but didn't have certain kinds of wind and storm damage. And so part of their claim was approved, but the other part wasn't because it was caused by the wind, right?
Yeah.
So, like, really understanding the nuances of the policies, the same thing for auto insurance.
Hmm.
Do you need an umbrella policy? Again, it goes back to risk mitigation, right? Having somebody say, okay, these are the potential risks with the coverage that you have now. If you're comfortable with that, we can leave it as is. My recommendation is that you should cover these risks in this following way, right?
Mm.
So those are things that I think it's important for people to do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking about let's say a married couple and they didn't have a will, or one of them had a will, one passed away. How would that play out? I don't know if that made
Well,
sense.
yeah, if one of them had passed away, and the one that passed away didn't have a will, is that the
Yeah,
question?
yeah.
Well, it's up to the court system to just determine where the assets go.
Oh, okay, okay,
And
okay.
typically in the US, it mostly goes to the married partner, but there are situations again when there's a kid, when there's I did hear about a case where the husband and wife were estranged
Mm,
and they were in the process of getting divorced
yeah.
and the husband passed away and he had not updated all of his beneficiaries. So the bulk of the assets went to the wife, even though they had made the decision to separate, right? So,
Hmm.
I think having a will in place
Hmm.
and also reviewing it, I would say every like 4 to 6 years is kind of an important part of the process. And just knowing also that from a life change standpoint,
Hmm.
making sure that these documents are updated. So like you're in the middle of a divorce, the last thing you're thinking about is calling your estate planning attorney because you're like your life is upside down, right? But unfortunately, that should be one of the things that's on your list.
Yeah.
And most people will wait until the divorce is final to figure that out. But sometimes when that happens, it's too late because I'll give an example. There was a case where husband and wife were getting divorced, and the husband was ordered by the court to get life insurance
Mm,
and to cover any alimony and child support payments that he would have to provide.
mhm.
And at the end of the case, they file the divorce decree, so forth and so on. The husband tries to go get life insurance. They find out that he's got this like heart arrhythmia and he's uninsurable.
Oof.
So had they known that before the divorce was final, obviously that something else, some other arrangement would have been put in place
Mhm.
to kind of insure around that risk, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't know that. And so it left a very sticky, complicated situation when it could have been handled more efficiently beforehand. So
Yeah.
I hate to use that example because it's not really happy
Yeah.
or uplifting, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's something that's relevant because I don't think people think through that kind of stuff.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. And I love that you shared that example because it's reality.
Yeah, it is.
Not everything's going to be always smooth sailing. We have to be prepared for the worst and
I know
expect the
that.
worst. Doesn't
I
mean
know.
someone's negative, but it's reality and it's life and it happens.
I know.
Yeah, yeah. Did you say that you have a book or books? Can you tell me more about your book or books?
Yeah, the book that I've been asked to collaborate on is it's called Financial Trendsetters, and it's a compilation of women who work in the industry. And as I alluded to earlier, there's not a ton of us, right? We're
Yeah.
there, but and we're definitely more there than we were years ago. We're a growing segment, but as somebody who's 30 years OG in the business, I'm like, it's just like
Yeah.
I've been along for the ride. But they're asking me to talk about things that I'm providing a chapter on like a really big lesson that I learned with a client on the behalf of the client.
Mm,
And
yeah.
well, I don't want to give too much away, but it's kind of a
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
story. Something that happened to a client that I was a part of, and I'm so grateful that I was able to help her. Like I just, and I think no matter what parallel or vertical or industry you work in,
Mhm.
anytime you're able to affect change in someone's life in a positive way,
Mm,
it's, I would say it's probably almost as fulfilling for me as it is for that individual.
yeah.
Because I feel like, oh my God, I was able to make a difference for that person. That's incredible, right? Whereas, you know, some people go to a job every day and they punch a clock and they do what they can and
Mhm.
they're contributing to a bigger picture. But to do something for somebody who's like kind of life-changing is really a big motivator for me. I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with me and my audience?
Sure. I think so. I alluded before, I think financial planning is a really important part of that process. And
Mhm.
the reason why that is, it's almost like a report card. So there are tools that people can find online that are like not as robust or detailed as what I provide, obviously, right?
Mhm.
And they don't allow for the expertise that I bring to the table or the personalization or the customization, but they exist. And especially for people who are just getting started, a financial plan is a way to kind of create a report card for yourself.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you put a bunch of information in. You'll say, this is how old I am. This is what I have saved. This is when I want to retire. This is how much money I make. I own my house. This is my mortgage. I rent an apartment. I want to buy a house in 3 years. Or I own a house and I want to buy a second house at a mountain home or a beach home in 5 years, right? So you set all these goals for yourself. And as time goes on, you figure out which goals are attainable and which goals are a little bit more challenging, right?
Mhm.
And every year you look at your report card.
Yeah.
So if you said this year I'm going to save $5,000 towards my second home and you only saved four, you're like, okay, I got to step it up next year,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Or if you said you'd save five and you were able to save seven, you're like, great, I'm not much closer to my goal because I oversaved, right?
Mm.
So the financial plan will account for things like inflation, which is a very big topic right now.
Yeah.
The cost of goods and services have gone up a lot.
Oh
People
yeah.
are feeling
Yeah.
that. You probably feel it yourself,
Oh yeah.
right?
It's painful.
Yeah. The cost of groceries. I
Yeah.
mean, the cost of hotel rooms is just bananas. But
Yeah.
um, so inflation will be there, investment returns assumptions will be in there, savings, Social Security based on your age. And again, that's a US thing. I don't know how that looks on the Canadian side, but
Mhm.
all of those things would contribute to the success of the plan, the trajectory of the plan. Is it going to take you 5 years or 20 to get to this goal?
Yeah.
But nothing happens if you don't write it down.
Mm.
Like, oh, I have that idea. That was a great idea. And then 6 months ago, oh, I was thinking about that 6 months ago, but I never did anything about it. I
Mm,
meant to do that.
yeah.
And kind of going back to one of the comments I made earlier, there's this unintended bias, right? Because women were never really encouraged to save, and we were never really encouraged to be the one who takes the reins with the finances.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so the financial plan is a way for us to get our hands around not just the finances, but having a little bit of control over it
Yeah.
and holding ourselves accountable.
Yeah,
So I love that piece of it. So I think if there was like, a couple takeaways from our conversation today for people who maybe want to start getting investing, start investing and get started on their own like savings and investment accounts, I would say take action
mm,
because an idea is an idea, but until you actually do something about it, it means nothing.
yeah,
I would say educate yourself. There's so many amazing resources out there, depending on what you want to invest in. Do you want to invest in real estate? Do you want to invest in the stock markets? Do you want to invest in, um, you know, different kinds of businesses, right? All of those opportunities exist and accessible by the everyday consumer, the everyday investor, right? And then I would say the last is, make all of your dreams and goals aspirational.
yeah,
Because if it's not something you're excited about, you're not going to do it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So.
Wow, definitely. I agree. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Um, what other questions do I have? Two questions for you. Where can people find you and connect with you?
Oh, sure. So my website is afgwealthmanagement.com.
Mhm.
And I'm also on Instagram as the Money Mama, NYC. I mean, I said I was a mom first, right?
Yeah.
Um, and where else? They can email me, agoldman@afgwealthmanagement.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. I mean, you can pretty much find me anywhere.
That's
I have
awesome.
a pretty unique name, Amy Frank Goldman, just three
Yeah,
names.
yeah.
I was Amy Frank for like 30 something years before I got, like professionally, before I got married. So by the time I got married, I was like, I'm giving it up. My husband seems fine with it, so we're good.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. I have one last question for you, which I asked
Sure.
every guest. What is the meaning of life for you?
Experiences. I mean, life is all about experiences and memories. I don't think anybody sits on their deathbed and says, "Oh, I wish I got another 0.5% return for my
Yeah,
portfolio." Right?
yeah.
Um, I had a grandfather that every time we went out to dinner, he picked up the check. And I said, Gramps, why do you always pick up the check? I'll let somebody else check it every now and then. He's like, Amy, I don't care about the money. I care about the laughter and the memories that we just made during that meal. He's like,
Ooh.
I want to be with my family. I want to remember my family.
Mhm.
And I was very young, and that was a part of a series of different experiences that led me to believe every day when I wake up, how can I make an impact in the world around me? And how can I make an impact for my clients?
Yeah.
And I think those two things are intertwined, by the way. I'm very active in philanthropy where I live. I do a lot of nonprofit work. And I do that because I really believe that the universe is a giving and receiving entity.
Hmm.
So what you put out in the universe will come back to you.
Yeah.
And if you're kind and you're honest and you care about human beings other than just the people that are in your direct sphere, I
Yeah.
think that, it'll come back to you in spades. So the meaning of life to me is, I would say giving back, whether it's to, and then my experiences.
I
Those
love
two
that.
things.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much, Amy, for coming on the podcast. Thank you for who you are and what you do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.